And welcome back. I have a few tips and tricks that'll help you change your spark plugs. When it comes down to ratchets, it's always good to have a variety of them. As you can see, I have 3 of them here that are different lengths, and they each have different features. In my opinion, this ratchet has the most useful feature on it. It has a flex head on it, and this is going to help you tremendously for getting into tight places. As you can see, you could flex the head in many different positions, and it's going to help you get that angle that you need. Now this second ratchet does not have a flex head, but it does have an offset, as you can see, and it's also a shorter length, so it helps you getting in tighter places. The third ratchet is even shorter, so it's going to help you with those really tight spaces, but as you can see, there's no offset. These 3 sockets on the left side are all 5/8, but as you can see, they have different heights, and the two 13/16s on the right side, they're the same height sockets, but it's always nice to have a variety of different sockets. Not all cars use 5/8 and 13/16 sockets. Some cars use 14 millimeters. I think the Mini Coopers use some sort of a 12-point socket for their spark plug. So just make sure you do your homework on that before you go out and buy any sockets for your vehicle. When it comes down to changing spark plugs, having a variety of extensions is a must-have. As you can see how my socket just easily pulled off of this one extension. The nice thing about this extension is it will not let go of a socket until you press the button. I've had many problems where you go to pull up on the extension and the socket stays attached to the spark plug, which can become a real pain in the butt to get that off. So this is actually a really nice extension for doing spark plugs because it's not going to let go of the socket. And here's a flexible extension. I don't use it often, but it has its place, and when you do need it, that's when it really shines. So it's something to just keep in your toolbox, and it's worth having it. Now let's just say you're in a tight area, like always where most spark plugs are. This extension, let's just say, is too short, and this extension is too long, of course. So what you could do is just start combining things, and if you put this swivel joint on the short extension, now you kind of have a medium length extension. So it's something to just play around with and just kind of mix and match just to get what you need. And of course, you can go ahead and put the swivel extension on the longer one. The downside to this is the weight of the socket, as you can see, is going to pull down on that swivel extension. But I have something. All you have to do is get a piece of electrical tape and wrap it around this swivel extension. Just think of it like Viagra for a swivel extension. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So this right here is a swivel extension on Viagra, and sometimes that's what you're gonna need. And here I have a 3/8 thumb drive. Now a tool like this is just for the most compact places. I mean, you cannot get any more compact than this setup if you put a thumb drive directly on the spark plug socket. So it's a nice tool to have, nice tool to keep around. You'll never know when you're gonna need it, and it'll just save your butt one day. When it comes down to removing the ignition wire off of the spark plug, always grab it at the base right here and just pull up. You really want to avoid pulling the wire from right here, because most of the times it's just going to pull out like this did, and now you just have other problems. In a situation like this, I really like to use long needle nose pliers, specifically the ones with a 90-degree bend on them. They just really help you bite into the boot so you could yank up on it. So this is best case scenario where the whole boot just comes off and everything is great. But with my luck, that's not always how it works out. So if you pull off the boot and it leaves a little surprise for you behind, And now you have other problems to deal with. So the problem that comes along with this is when you put your socket over it, now you can see it sticks through the top of the socket, and now your extension or your ratchet does not fit on the socket. But there's a way around this. And right here I'm just showing, if you go on top of the spark plug with your extension already installed on it, it's not going to grab onto the spark plug itself. So the way to do this is go ahead and put your socket on first. And for this specific socket, it actually uses a 19mm that goes on top. So you grab another socket and put it right on top. You could put it directly on your ratchet or an extension, you know, whatever is going to work in your situation. And that's how you remove it in case that one little metal tab stays stuck onto the spark plug. Okay, so let's just say you're using a socket that isn't intended for spark plugs. So when you pull up on the socket, obviously the spark plug is going to stay behind. What you could do is grab a magnet and pull the spark plug right out like that. Another method is to use a hose, which I actually really like this method. It works great every single time. So you just kind of push it onto the spark plug, and you could use it to twist out and remove the spark plug. And this also works for installing new spark plugs, so you don't got to drop them into, you know, a blind area and probably damage the electrode or something. And another option is to just use a spark plug socket. So when you remove your socket, the spark plug comes with it. Now if you removed your spark plugs, and let's just say they've been in there for a while and they just fought the whole way out, and it just looks, the threads on the spark plugs look just dirty, grimy, you know, full of dirt and debris, whatever. You want to clean up those threads on the cylinder head before you try to insert the new spark plug. So they sell these. Obviously you would have to get the one that fits you know, your specific car. But basically you're just gonna run it in, and it's gonna help clean out any dirt that's trapped in those threads, and it's gonna make installing the new spark plugs that much easier. And you could also, it's gonna allow you to achieve your correct torque specs. Here's a spark plug gapping tool. There's a variety of different types of these. This one right here, one end is very narrow, and as you spin it around, it becomes wider, and this is just to measure the gap on the spark plug. It's not intended to create a gap with this. I know this tool looks like it was designed to go on a keychain or something, that's why it has a hole drilled in it, but that's not what it's for. That hole is to actually create a gap on your spark plug, and I'll show you that in just a second. So you would put this on a spark plug like that, and you're gonna pull back very slightly. It doesn't take a lot, don't overdo it, just go little by little. And each time you open up the gap a little bit, just go ahead and check your measurements again. Now obviously you want to do your own research and go to the manufacturer's recommendations on where the gap has to be. And even some plugs right out of the box say don't gap them, so just make sure you do your homework on them. You should always put anti-seize on the threads of the spark plugs. Now it doesn't take a lot, you're just gonna need a little bit, but just make sure you put it on there. If you ever had to fight with spark plugs to come out, it could turn into a nightmare really fast. So just do yourself a favor, put the anti-seize on it, and you'll be happy you did it the next time you have to remove them. And of course, always torque down your spark plugs according to the manufacturer's recommendations. These cylinder heads, a lot of them are made out of aluminum, and it's very easy to pull the threads on them, and now you're just opening up a whole can of worms if you do that. So just play it safe. Putting some dielectric grease on the ceramic part of the spark plug or inside the boot is really going to help the next time you have to remove these things. And that's pretty much it. So if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you know anyone who's changing their spark plug soon, make sure you share this video. So, like always, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.